Hello, everybody, and welcome back to round number 9. We will have one of our earlier featured players who's doing amazing in this tournament. It will be Bert Wolters playing his basically straight Zation toolbox. He has a Malcario in there, but I wouldn't call it Zation Malcario because there's only one of those and 4 Zation. So it's a Zation toolbox. He's at 7-1. And I'm very hyped to see it because this is my current favorite deck in the format. I'm Philipp Schulz and I'm joined by Markus Spartaro.
Everybody, hey, as you said, this Zation toolbox is just that sweet breath of fresh air that we needed in this meta. I think it's a really good contender, and I'm really happy to see if Bert continues his streak of winning games.
Exactly, Bert said that he's bored of ADP Zation and that he just wanted to explore other options of Zation, and I think that's a great approach because Zation is just such a powerful card, and just limiting it to that linear game plan of ADPization feels so boring, even though it's extremely powerful and probably the best you can play right now. I think that, exploring other possibilities like Bert does is really cool and there's a lot of potential. And of course, Bert is 7-1, so that's speaking for it.
And this deck as well might be very strong in the next set since I think we're getting the Galarian Meowth that does discarding 2 cards from your hand and you look for the evolution.
Yep.
So in that case, you can even add in the Galarian Persecutor that lets you do 20 more damage for your metal Pokemon, making this deck a real threat to other Zation and ADP decks.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a very powerful addition from the new set. We also have Pedro Eugenio Torres from Limitless, who's at 6-2 with a similar deck to Bert. A bit even more checked out than what Bert is playing. So so there's plenty of options to play Zation, and I think it's just really cool to see them explored. And we are ready to jump into the game. It looks like Bert will be facing a mill deck.
Another mill deck.
Yeah.
Wow, we had already a few of these, and I'm pretty sure this will not be the last. But obviously, as we were talking before with Martin, mill is such a predominant deck in the meta, or at least it's occupying a very large space in the current meta, because it's a deck that is somewhat easy to play, depending on what you draw, how you set up. It's very it's also very satisfactory as a deck, like milling your opponent, not winning by standard measures. I think it's a really fun deck overall. But at the same time, it has that, the opponent will not have so much fun, let's just say.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the less restrictive control decks we've seen so far, and I think it's also relatively interesting to play because you have to use your, of course you have to do your early game correctly and set up for that's like the boring part. I think the most interesting part of the deck is that you usually can only afford to use resource management once, so picking the right time when to use resource management and knowing exactly which cards you need to win is like the interesting thing. And like seeing players play themselves into a situation where they can go for resource management and seeing what they pick to make sure they can win the game is like the most interesting part of this deck. I think
it's definitely interesting to see when the skill comes up in such crucial turns. And we see, actually, we're talking about the early turns of Mill, and sometimes Mill has these very slow turns at the beginning because it needs to set up, but he has also disruption tools. I really like Team Yellgrunt, and the Hammer Inclusion gives you an extra layer on that.
Yep.
But energy control has become so important in this meta that being able to control your opponent's energy is just crucial for this kind of deck.
Yeah, and Kayan looks like he's playing a very teched out version. I'm looking at this list right now, and he's playing a Persian that has make him pay for probably mirrors and just generally because it's strong against Zation decks. He's playing the Girafarik, of course, against mirrors and against Oranguru with resource management. He's playing a Spiritomb. I believe the reason to play that is because it can knock itself out. So in the mirror match, you can put it down, use Build Spite 6 times, knock it out, and make sure that you're behind in prizes. So you can use
exactly.
Yeah, so you have access to Lieutenant Search strategy. And he plays 4 Crushing Hammer and 4 Team Yellgrunt, so a lot of energy disruption in there as well. So yeah, in general, a pretty interesting approach. One thing that he doesn't play, however, is Mew to Mew tag team, and also no Cargo GX. So
probably it's more like of a mid-range type of stall deck. Probably wants to win, taking things slow, controlling your opponent. Something more similar to the Pidgeotto deck that we saw in the last meta, in team up, later on meta. Because it's able to control your opponent actions, controlling their options, and overall it's a bit of a slower deck. It doesn't try to, like Mill, try to finish the game so quickly because ADPization is a very scary matchup to go against, and they will eventually run you out.
Yep. So yeah, this is like, as you said, a slower approach to Mill. Like we've seen basically Turbo Mill be the popular deck, but this is definitely going much further in the control direction than the other Mill decks.
Exactly. So we see actually taking the first knockout on that Zation V, that's pretty big. Also for the fact that once the Zation V is removed from the bench, the opponent is going to be able to draw less cards, but also they will have less incentives to bench another Zation. Like he did right now, because now if Bert is able to capitalize on this and knock out that Zation, he will bring him ahead of the prize race.
Yep. So I'm pretty sure that's Bert's go-to strategy for this matchup. He doesn't have that great tools to combat the Mill matchup because he doesn't have Alter Creation. However, against this exact list with his opponent playing 4 Crushing Hammer and 4 Team Yellgrunt, it might even be an advantage that he's not going for Altered Creation. And yeah, I guess his plan will be to target the Zations as much as possible.
Indeed.
Yeah,
we just saw him fail a catcher, unfortunately. That's the second flip catcher that goes away. And I think the opponent milled him a custom catcher and used 2, which means that his catcher options are slowly fading down to 0.
Yep. However, he does play Oranguru. He plays.
Oh, okay.
He plays 2 Pokemon catcher and 4 custom catcher. So I believe what he's trying to do is just like target those stations as much as possible, prevent your opponent from drawing much, and then use Oranguru to kind of get this Gust back.
Then we see him actually going for this Oranguru resource management. Look at that, getting back 3 Pokemon catcher because he knows that way to win against this matchup is Gust effects.
Yep.
And it's gonna be very interesting as well with the next meta, since we have boss orders, how stall decks will be able to adapt to this.
Yep, but Bert, of course, is already pretty low on deck cards. He's at 14 right now. Knowing that his opponent doesn't have Mekago GX, he knows that as well. Means that he can go to below 11 cards. He can, as long as he doesn't end up with 6 cards in his deck, he will not go deck out that quickly. So that gives Bert much more breathing room to play in this matchup.
Indeed, we see an ordinary rod, probably just reshuffling cards in the deck, but still this Pokédoll is on the active, and Bert needs to bypass it somehow. He has also that Marnie in hand, we need to mention, which is going to be very helpful to controlling your opponent, increasing hand size, considering that he now has also an Audino.
Yep, the Marnie is pretty good right now. He can probably go for like Quick Ball to shuffle his deck, make sure that he can draw into his catchers, and then switch into Jirachi, go for Marnie, and hope to hit those catchers. And if he does, then he can take the knockout on Visation, which is exactly what he wants to do. And he also puts his opponent at 4 cards while disrupting his draw engine, of course. So that would be a good way for him to combat this deck, trying to make it brick. Yeah, and
the game right now does not seem to go into favor of any of the 2 players. We are sort of halfway through Bert's deck. He has 13 cards left, but at the same time, they are very intense cards because he has those catchers at the bottom. So right now, if he will do that Marnie, actually he found a quick ball to shuffle his deck. That's very good for him. There we go, there's the Marnie. Decides to not play the switch. That's a very safe play. And wow, it's not the best stand I've ever seen.
I think it's interesting that Bert didn't go for the Quick Ball because he knows that his custom catchers are at the bottom of his deck. So he basically knew that he will not draw them with that Marnie unless he plays Quick Ball. So
exactly. That was very weird, but I guess he just maybe had in plan to just use Oranguru again this turn, which is fair choice, I would say. Actually, he's not picking the most interesting cards. I would have picked at least 1 or 2 catchers. I don't know about you.
Yeah, he probably just wants to keep as many switches as possible. and of course he also needs energies to use resource management. So he's not going for an aggressive way to win quickly. It seems like he's going more for a way that guarantees that he will be able to stay in the game for a longer amount of time and like slowly win. So I guess that makes sense as well.
So that's very fair. And then we see the second Chinchino coming down, and there's a tentative surge strategy again. Oh, but it's just a Symphony Catalan turn. It's not a double mill turn. He's just setting himself back, and wow, look at that combo. Lieutenant Surge plus Symphony Catalan to get back the Lieutenant Surge you just played.
Yep.
So we see him, he keeps drawing.
Yeah, Kayan is still working on getting through his deck. He's still at 22 cards, and that's a count that Bert would feel comfortable at, but Kayan certainly isn't. He wants to go through his deck as quickly as possible. And
exactly, he still has 22. I think he milled Bert only twice, which obviously means that there are more cards even in his deck. And we see the Spiritomb being discarded. It was just another Symphony Catalan, getting back the Team Yell Grunt. Do you think maybe he should try to attack with Girafarig, at least in a crucial turn? Maybe if he's able to mill some more catchers.
Yeah, I feel like he can definitely go for Girafarig. Bert is pretty much showing that he wants to target those stations and doesn't really care too much about the other stuff. So I think Kayan can pretty much afford to go for like something like an Uraguru or Girafarig. However, he has a lot of cards in his deck, and he has gotten disrupted a bit by Marnie, so he probably just wants to use Station's ability to replenish his hands.
And another big thing, as you're talking about, once you Marnie your opponent that is playing mill, that's gonna mean that they will have they'll have more cards in their deck, more than they want, because every turn they will be able to just cycle through the Cincino. But then if you keep Marning them turn by turn, you're gonna just keep refreshing their deck overall, making for them really hard to find the resources.
Yep.
So here's a resource management from the Bert's Oranguru.
Yeah, Bert going really slow here. Doesn't want to overextend with the Professor's research. Just went for Stellar Wish, getting that one custom catcher, shuffling his deck. He already has the switch for next turn, so now he's recovering his switch. And yeah, looks like he's going for two catchers.
It's very good. I don't think there are any other Marnies. I do like the reset stamp getting picked up here by Bert. That gives you another option if you need, for example, to dig with a Professor Research. Then you can also shuffle back your opponent's hand. But at the same time, it's a great disruption tool if you can't Marnie.
Yep, for sure. I think Marnie is probably what Bert wants, but yeah, having a reset stamp option. Yeah, just having a reset stamp in decks, of course, always also valuable to make it.
So yeah, he also didn't have Marnie to shuffle back in, so I think that was just his second best good.
Yep. Oh, also, by the way, I'm looking at Bert's list, and I just now realized that his comments of the deck, name giving to the deck on Arcanine is amazing, broken, busted, insane, limitless. So it seems like
the Pokemon community really has a big problem with the word busted. You just use it disproportionately.
Yeah, but it seems like Bert is very confident in the strength of his deck if he gives it this name.
So we see another Intrepid Sir, another setup turn here for the middle deck. And do you think maybe you should just play a copy in any deck, a copy of Belel by Bryson, man? Because sometimes you can just steal away a game with that card from the opponent. Because mill decks usually remain at 2 or 3 cards, and I'm pretty sure that a Belel by Bryson would be a win condition.
Yeah, it could definitely be an interesting thing. However, we do play with open deck lists, so you will not be able to surprise your opponent with that.
Exactly. So for this special occasion, not really. But maybe in real life, next tournament, once this whole situation is over, consider it, guys.
Yeah, consider it. It would definitely be interesting.
Oh, we see Bert finally picking up 2 custom catchers in his hand. This means that he can finally take a knockout on that station, but he needs to be mindful about the number of cards he has in his deck. In fact, he has 8 cards remaining, which means that if the opponent is able to get have back the
Mimikyu,
the Mimikyu, thank you, I couldn't remind the name, and 3 Belel by Bryson, that's gonna be a game. But we see actually a reset stamp. There we go. Really good in this case because he doesn't need to Marnie since he doesn't have it.
Yep. Mani
Puts a
would
lot
have,
of cards.
yeah, Mani would have definitely been what he would have wanted, but yeah, with Reset Stamp also shuffling back 8 cards, so reducing the amount of cards that Kayan has from 14 to just 6 is of course pretty big as well. And he's going for a
Seen
knockout
that
on
Bert went for
Shinshino.
the Chinchino, which I understand why he did that, and I think I support it as a choice.
Yeah, he's
Obviously, the opponent does not need Zacian anymore, as it did much in early game.
yeah, he's probably scared of losing this turn and not so much on the yes, he's not so much concerned about Zacian, rather wants to keep
It's
away.
the Oranguru,
Yeah.
so as long as, for example, Kai is not able to mill him this turn, he might be able to respond by just using an Oranguru and fattening up his deck. So it really depends on what Kaya does this turn. Faba, in fact, that discards the skateboard, and it's not too relevant, but it can be if the game prolongs even more.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's see what Bert can do here.
Yeah.
What do you think his course of action should be?
Yeah, Bert probably has to go for resource management again. He's pretty low on switching cards, and he can't attack it this turn anyways. Especially now that he lost his escape board. Yeah, he definitely needs to go into resource management. And yeah, he probably has to hope to find a Mani sometime soon, because he's getting
There is
really
still
low on
one.
cards. Yeah,
He does have one Mani for sure. He should be one of the next cards. So let's hope he doesn't get milled, actually. So here's the resource management, putting him at 10 cards. That's excellent for him. That means he will not be milled out in just one hit. And wow, look at that. Free switch. I do like that choice is just safe. He needs to be mindful, of course, of the opponent stalling him. This Oranguru has a pretty thick retreat card.
Yeah, and Bert prioritizing disruption here, realizing that he's pretty low and he's not that close to winning, so he will have to disrupt his opponent more to prevent him from winning sometime soon.
Indeed. And we were talking about this dichotomy of playing Zacian, playing Zacian with ADP or playing it with other partners. Obviously, playing it with ADP would make this matchup maybe easier if you had the flips on your side. But at the same time, playing it, not playing it gives you so much room. So it's a really big dilemma, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. It gives you so many options, but this matchup, of course, gets much more annoying. You have to take so many knockouts to win. Pedro, for example, is playing a Persian with Make him Pay in his deck to combat with control decks that usually have like 10, 15 cards in their hand. So yeah,
we see actually we see the mill as well this turn, thanks to that below by Bryceman. And now the Oranguru will just put 3 cards back in the deck. And basically from this point onwards, Bert needs to play kind of a rushing game. Because every turn, the opponent is going to be able to mill 3 cards if he wants to go in that direction. And Bert needs to be able to set up a Pokemon and try to knock out the opponent's Pokemons.
Yeah, it's certainly starting to look painful for Bert. Only at 7 cards in his deck. Still not threatening the win. And his opponent is able to prepare here. Having knocked out Chinchino, however, helps a lot.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The single Chinchino right now, I think it's just all he needs. Maybe next turn it could be dangerous, because he's just going to draw 3 of the cards, so it's very important the order in which he puts the card back into his deck.
Yep.
So we see the energy going to attack to the Zacian. That Zacian needs to be charged up at some point, otherwise Bert will not be able to respond to this Oranguru loop. So here's the resource management from Bert.
Yeah.
How his deck is stocked up right now, thanks to the switch that is putting back on now, even if the opponent mills 6 cards, he will still be able to, for example, switch next turn and have other options if you would like to go down that road.
And yeah, Bert thinking about what to pick here. Has 4 custom catchers in his discard pile and can't afford just now to put some in. Looks like thinking about just Pokemon catcher. Mhm.
And he needs to be mindful as well on the mill order, because the cards will be milled from the order in which he puts them in. So if he wants to draw a specific card, he needs to be counting the cards correctly. So there's actually a level of play here that is quite hard to see, but it's very important.
Yep. He's prioritizing that switch, it looks like, being the top card for him. I'm not sure if I like that too much. Maybe I would have preferred him to put Mani on top, but it doesn't matter that much since he has Oranguru as well, so he can use that to get him the second card as well.
And the Marnie is very important as well, because it also puts more card into your deck, so you may be able to escape that Below Bryson and Mill. So you see the opponent just, he has his last cards remaining in his hand that he doesn't want, he discards them, such as this Mew. And slowly but surely, he will be advancing towards trying to mill 6 cards each turn from Bert. Tries to steal the game in that way.
Yep. Yeah, if he's able to mill 6 cards this turn, it's gonna look really tough for Bert, because, of course, if you always mill 6 and your opponent only recovers 3, that will eventually give you the win.
Exactly. And Bert needs to be mindful of his resources and how he should stack them up. He needs to start taking knockout as well, because otherwise the game will just go longer and longer, and that's probably going to mean that Kai is going to win. So let's see what Bert will be able to do next turn. His hand is not looking great. The resource management finally. Let's see. Do you think he should go for custom catchers or for Pokemon catchers in this situation?
With resource management, you mean? It's hard to say. I think first thing to do, however, is just... I think Bert kind of needs to take a knockout on his next turn. Otherwise, he will fall too much behind.
Indeed. Oh, it's becoming very, very tight. Also, the time is surely running out.
Yeah, they still have like 5 minutes.
And Bert, I think, just messaged his opponent talking about this. I'm not sure, to be fair. There's a Primus Wisdom putting on top of the pen, drawing a quick ball. It's not the right card.
But
it says to attach an energy to the Oranguru.
Yeah, Bert's probably just writing his opponent that they're running low on time, and that he doesn't want it to end in a tie.
That's just gonna mean a double loss, right?
Yeah, exactly.
With this format of tournament, unfortunately, ties are very hard to manage, and the free roll turns will just imply so many delays for everybody. So it's better this way. We see him just going for the same cat and dog game in which one is chasing the other. The Oranguru deck probably will see him milling this turn. Implying he's able to. That's going to start putting up the pressure on the Bert side. We see, in fact, Bert talking right now with his opponent. So very similar to a game in real life in which you don't want to tie, because that would just result in nobody making top. So we see him with the Belelben Bryson man. And there is the second Belelben Bryson man milling 6 card. That's very huge.
Yep. Yeah, it's getting
real dicey here for Bert.
However, his opponent is kind of low on cards as well. I wonder if he has. I wonder if he has.
He needs probably to Ordinary Rod one turn to just get back some Pokemon he wants to his card.
Yeah, also, I don't know if he has something like an Air Balloon left in his deck. Otherwise, Bert could try to just catch a Upzation or the Girafarik.
I'm not sure if there is one more Tedaliza. I saw one for sure.
Okay. But yeah, if he were able to stick something up in the active, that could be a really strong way. But yeah, that's a popular strategy against Mill, and Mill decks have been opting to include Paw Pet. And yeah, there we see that his opponent...
Safe play from his opponent. He's just saying, hey, listen, man, I know you could win this way. I know you put back those catchers. I'm gonna have something against it. So Bert right now is just thinking there is the profound knowledge maybe this turn. Don't think that's the right thing, but there's a Marnie actually. That could be pretty huge. There's the catchers and the switch. Beautiful play here by Bert. Stacking up his deck in the way he wants. But the only issue right now is that there is no knockout because the station does not have any energies. So he needs to wait another turn actually.
Yep. So he might want to go for profound knowledge here. Yeah.
Custom catcher, that's fair. He takes out one turn of resource management, so that's fair.
Makes
Unless
sense.
there is a Titan Liza in Kaya's hand. Oh, this is a very tight game. It's very slow paced, but actually it's very, very tight. And could go either way.
Yeah, I feel like in the long run, Bert is eventually gonna... I think Bert is slowly losing this game. Because
indeed.
he still has to draw 3 prizes. So he still needs to attack quite often to take the win here. While his opponent is slowly chipping away his resources.
And maybe the opponent will be able to retreat this turn thanks to that Palpad, which just shuffled the deck. Let's see if he draws that air balloon. Because if he does, then that means 1 resource management again, which is gonna pull him up even further. Yep. Let's see if he's in there. And no, actually has an Intrepid Sword. That's really big. Is there any way for Bert to capitalize on this?
I don't believe he has the knockout yet. He could go for Professor's Research and take a knockout, but probably not. So he just has to go for resource management and fill up his deck even further. And yeah, our clock is now down to 0, so this would mean timeout. However, our clock is not the actual round time, it's just an estimation, because it's really hard to track it from our side, because the clock starts when both players checked in on Smash, and so I just start the clock at 25 minutes whenever both players are ready to go into the game, to have a rough estimation of the time, but we don't have the exact timer. So
I think it's down on the seconds looking at the inside clock, the one inside the game, so it could, I think they're just down seconds or even slightly over time. Yeah, they're still playing, of course. It's 25 minutes. It's a lot at the same time, but at the same time it can be not much, especially for this type of decks.
Yeah, so this looks like this will end in a tie. Both players, however, had a 7-1 record going into this round and are still looking forward to do better. Still, even if a tie. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Bert is just communicating with his opponent and saying, hey, listen, we went to a tie, unfortunately. Fortunately, none of them were able to win. And so, these two very, very strong opponents had to tie this game, but unfortunately, that's the rules. But yeah, as you saw, this game was very back and forth. It started very strong on Bert's side.
Yep.
But at the same time, the opponent was able to catch up quite fast. Its setup was not too good, but at the same time, it was very consistent. I really like this deck, and I really prefer such a version rather to a speed mill version.
Yep, and yeah, it was definitely an interesting game, and both sides played it well. I think Bert got a really strong start where he could take out with Zacian, and if he had managed to take it out again with the Mani, I think it would have put him in a really, really commanding position, because that would have meant that he could have just resource managed and put himself into a situation where he can eventually take another knockout on his Zacian, so his opponent would have played without Intrepid Sword for the rest of the game, and that would have basically been it, I believe. But yeah, he wasn't able to find the second knockout that quickly, and then he was already so low that he had to go for a lot of resource management.
Indeed. So, wow, that was round 8, if I'm not mistaken, which means we have 5 more rounds.
Yeah, it was round 9. We have 4 more
Oh,
rounds.
it was round 9, so we have just 4 more rounds, and then we're gonna know which player advanced to day 2. If you're right now on a score that is X4, you can still make it, and you're gonna be able to enter day 2 with all the pro players that will be there. So yeah, good luck to everyone playing, and I think we will see you soon, right?
Yep. Yeah, round number 10 is starting very shortly as this went into time, so we will probably switch to a pool that's starting soon, and we'll be back with round number 10 very shortly, so stay tuned, don't go anywhere.